How's everybody doing? Hopefully good. I'm going to take a couple minutes and introduce a study that Aspen Group has partnered with Barna Group on. And for those that don't know Barna Group is a research firm that's been around for, I think, about 40 years. And they've conducted over 2 million interviews, over thousands of research studies. And they are the go to source for insights about faith and culture, leadership and vocations, as well as generation. So, this is a cool project that Aspen Group partnered with them on, and they produced 3 volumes of research on why church design matters in ministry. So the first 2 volumes are out now. Volume one being Making Space for Inspiration, and the second volume being Making Space for Community. And I'm going to make a couple of videos, real short, just to introduce some of the things that I'm learning through this. But the first thing that kind of jumped out at me, and let me just read you a quick quote, and then I'll share with you what jumped out at me. This is from our president of Aspen Group. Why should church leaders care about spaces? This is the driving force of my entire career. Our mission at Aspen Group and the passion behind this study. We have an opportunity to influence people. We have an opportunity to influence people's discipleship through our spaces. There's ministry impact in creating beautiful churches. The first thing that statement made me think about is, what is the difference between creating beautiful churches and creating beautiful buildings? And I wonder if that is maybe a trend that's taking place right now in the church world, especially non denominational churches. We are trying really hard to make beautiful buildings. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm learning through reading this study and listening to the podcast, which is called Making Space Podcast, and I'll tell you where to find that as well, but it's everywhere you would normally find podcasts. It's making me think that there's got to be something more to attaining or bringing people back into the church. We all know that the church numbers are declining, and the very first section of this volume is about what's in a space. And I'm starting to understand that people are longing for transcendence. And this journal, over 60 pages of data. I'm not going to touch on any of them. I'm going to talk about just a couple of things. So it talks about transcendence is something that we long for, and is transcendence critical inside of a church space? But there was a question that they asked: what do you feel makes a space spiritual or transcendent? Now they have data in here for all U.S. adults, practicing Christians, non-practicing Christians, and non-Christians. Me, as a former church leader, I'm going to focus on the non-practicing Christians because at one point they were, or they believe in Christ, but they don't fully engage with the church, and the people we want to bring into the church because those are the people we want to save, the non-Christians. And surprisingly, the data shows that the highest number, and I've looked through all the data, these are the top 3 things that non-practicing Christians and non-Christians have rated as a spiritual or transcendent. Sense of peace or calm was number 1. An awareness of the greater power was number 2. And a sense of belonging was number 3. Those that data, to think that even a non-Christian, someone who is a non-believer, rates as a spiritual transcendent place an awareness of the greater power. So then they followed up with the question: what would you consider any of the following places to be transcendent? And again, I'm going to only give you the top 3. Number 1 was nature. Number 2 was Christian churches. And number 3 was memorial sites. And this journal goes on to explain the methodology and the thinking behind it, and unpacks why would they say memorial sites? Why would they say nature? And I just want to introduce to you that we need to be thinking through church design in a different way. We have to draw people back into the church, and we have to start by how we design our spaces. The reality is that the space has impact on people. It communicates something to them. So through one of the podcasts, one of the great questions that was shared was, what does your space communicate to the people that walk through the door? I've never asked that question. As a former builder and designer, I looked at programming needs, I looked at costs, but I never stopped to ask, what do we want the space to communicate? So I think that's a great question. Another one one of the questions that they put at the end of this first section to consider is, how can a person's connection to nature also connect them with God? What can you do to draw nature into or around your church How can church design point to God as creator? Lots of great things to think about in this journal. I want to point you guys to aspengroup.com/making hyphen or dash space. aspengroup.com making hyphen or dash space. And in that, you will see everything about the study, the volumes that are available. You have our store that you can buy these from, but you also have the Making Space podcast. Anybody who is involved in churches, church leaders, all the way through the ministry areas, I recommend that you get your hands on this because it can do something, it can unlock something within your church that allows us to succeed at drawing more people back into the church where we have community and we can engage and we can draw them closer to God. Thanks for listening.